Hi guys, this is Vidya and I hope you're doing well. So today I'm going to talk to you about 5 things that I wish I had known about breastfeeding before I began. It would have saved me a lot of stress, at least in the beginning, and I wish someone had told me about these things then. So here I am sharing them with you. I hope you find these useful. These are like the basics of breastfeeding that I think every mom should know before she gives birth if you intend to breastfeed. The first thing I wish I'd known is the most important, and that it is not always easy. Breastfeeding is made out to be this natural thing that just mothers know how to do. Of course, our bodies are designed to breastfeed once the baby is born, but it doesn't always come naturally to us, and there are a lot of challenges in the beginning for most moms out there, and there is a lot of information, a lot of resources that we can use to help us through this struggle in the beginning. So it's good to be aware that it's not always easy for everyone, so that it won't be a shock. Like I was surprised how hard it was for me in the beginning. We had issues with latching, we had issues with supply, and they all sorted themselves out, but that initial period was full of stress for me with regards to breastfeeding. So it's not always easy, and it doesn't always start off with a bang, especially if you're a first-time mom. So that is one thing I wish I had known. The second thing I wish I had known was that it's all about demand and supply. So there's no such thing as a set quantity that your body is going to produce every day and be done with it. The body responds to your child's cues, and if the baby is more hungry and nursing more frequently, it sends a signal to your body to start producing more breast milk. So it's all about demand and supply. So in the first few days after the baby is born, we don't produce much milk at all. So it takes 3 or 4 days for the milk supply to actually kick in. So the first few days of a baby's life, their stomach is the size of a pea. That's how tiny it is. So it doesn't take much to fill up that stomach, and it doesn't take much to empty it. So they need small, very small, a few drops of breast milk at a time, and they need it more frequently. And that's exactly what our body produces. Our body produces something called colostrum, which is a thick yellowish substance, and it's very little in quantity. So your milk production doesn't start until a few days after the baby is born, especially if you're a first-time mom. I was expecting my milk to just come in with a bang, and I was very nervous that it wasn't coming in. So it turns out that this colostrum is full of nutrients, and it's more than enough for a baby in those first few days. The next thing I wish I had known was that not all breast milk is the same, and the composition of breast milk changes during the day and also during every feed. So there's something called foremilk and hindmilk. So because the baby is completely dependent on breast milk for its hydration as well as nutrients, they don't take any other water, right? So the first few minutes of feeding, the baby is going to get the foremilk, which is the more watery, more thin kind of milk that quenches their thirst and gets the supply going. And after the foremilk is being fed, then comes in the hind milk, which is more thicker and more fatty. So this is what helps the baby get those calories in. So in every feed, we have to make sure that the baby is getting the hind milk, which comes in later in the feed. So if the baby is having milk on one side just for a few minutes and just unlatching, and you switch them over to the other side and they're getting the foremilk from that side also, they are missing out on the hind milk, which has more calories. So to make sure that we get both foremilk and hind milk from each side, I talked to a lactation consultant, and this is the advice they gave me. Let's say I'm starting the feed on my left side. I would let the baby continue feeding until he was full on the left side and until he unlatches on his own. And then I would pick him up, burp him, and then switch him over to the other side and let him have some of the foremilk that's coming out. So then that way, my left breast is completely drained, and the right breast, some of the foremilk is also going into his body. That way he's getting all the hind milk from my left side. And during the next feed, I would start on my right side, let him get completely full, and then burp him and switch him over to the left side. I hope this is making sense, but it turned out to be excellent advice because both sides were getting drained in alternate feeds, and I was able to give him the hind milk that he so requires during those first few days or weeks. So I used a little app that helped me track which side I was feeding on because I was doing it so frequently. Sometimes you get it's easy to lose track. You can use an app like that, or your body will tell, you'll feel a little bit lighter on the side you fed, and then you can feed on the other side the next time. So that is one thing that I wish I had known before. The fourth thing that I wish I had known was that latching is everything. Like, we struggled for a good 1 month to get the latch right. I know some babies just get it right off the bat, and some babies struggle for much longer than that. It's completely different for everybody, but getting the latch right is one of the most important parts of breastfeeding, in my opinion, because otherwise the mom is in a lot of pain. We have cracked skin, sore nipples, sometimes bleeding, and it makes the whole experience very painful. And I had a few rough days too in the beginning, and the lactation consultant again was very helpful. She gave me this thing called the nipple shield, which is basically a thin piece of silicone that goes over your nipple and is kind of protective, and the baby finds it easier to latch on to the shield sometimes, which is what happened with me. So I use this in addition to pumping and bottle feeding because this is still breastfeeding. It was just giving me a little bit of help. So I recommend checking it out if you're having trouble with latch. It might be a good thing to try. The last thing I wish I had known about breastfeeding is how important rest is for breastfeeding well. It is equally important as is your diet, the vitamins you take, the pump you're using, the bottles you're using, the latch your baby has. Having enough rest is equally important, because during those periods of rest is when your body is actually making breast milk, between those nursing sessions. So getting enough rest and sleep is very important. Like, I actually saw when I was I was generally sleep deprived in the beginning, but when I was extra sleep deprived, when I was trying to do everything, that's when my supply dropped. So do whatever you can to get some rest. If you have a partner or a parent or someone else who can help you with a few feeds, let them take over. It's completely okay to pump and keep some milk in the fridge so that they can warm it up and give them to the baby while you're asleep. You do not have to do it all yourself. Trust me, I cannot stress hard enough how important it is for a mother to get some uninterrupted sleep, at least for a few hours in the night or during the day, whatever works for you. So that's it. Those were the tips I wish I had known before I started this journey. And if I've missed something out, do let me know. It will be so helpful for all the other moms, and I'll see you next time. Until then, take care. Bye.